fire and then leapt off of it.
Yeah, no, I think it is possible. That's just what he says. That's why he thinks he didn't commit suicide. But the family also got the body after this, and they had a second autopsy done. And the report from this one noted ligature marks around the neck that were horizontal across the neck, which is like more consistent with being throttled by somebody than hanging. Because obviously they're going to go like across and then up past your jaw and your ears and all that stuff. And yeah, so it looks like somebody might have actually choked him to death. Yeah. And there were supposedly two strangers in American uniforms that were present at the site of Hess's hanging. There was a Tunisian medical orderly named Abdullah. I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name.
We'll go with that.
Yeah, okay, Abdullah. Let's call him Abdullah. He worked at Spandau he'd been working there for, 7 or 8 years looking after Hess. Abdullah wrote in an affidavit that, quote, "When I arrived at the Garden Summer House, I found the scene looking as though a wrestling match had taken place." He lives. The ground was churned up, and the chair in which Hess usually lay on the ground a considerable distance from its usual location, unquote. And then he noted those two strangers, and he said that was unusual because contact with Hess was strictly forbidden. If you're one of the guards, that's one thing, but unless you have a reason to be in contact with Hess, no, a big no-no. So it was strange that those two were there.
I'll wait. Go ahead. Keep going.
Okay. At this time, August '87, the U.S. guards were in charge of in the prison. Again, it varied from French, U.S., British, Russian. I guess it's the theory of Wolf Hess, because Wolf Hess believes that it was the British Secret Service that murdered his dad. And I guess his theory is that it wouldn't stink quite so bad if Hess had died while the Americans were in charge of guarding him, whether that's true or not. And so he believes that those two strangers were actually British SAS.
Why did the Brits knock him off? This is the thing this is my biggest problem with this. I don't understand why they would do it.
Particularly because weren't the Brits one of the ones that said, no, let him go?
Yeah. It was only the Soviets who would not agree to his
Although
release.
I guess on the other hand, the Brits may have been saying, yeah, let him go so we can murder him in his own home.
Or they might have,
I mean,
a little duplicity.
Yeah.
Well, it was a safe bet for them. They could easily play the good cop and say, knowing that the Soviets are always going to veto it, there's no harm in saying, hey, yeah, we're open to that.
Yeah.
That's
true.
It might have changed if the Soviets, and so since we did have that change in the sort of Soviet posture.
Well, what's the policy? Here's a question. What's the policy of torture for prisoners of war at that time in World War II?
Torture?
Yeah.
I believe it was not sanctioned.
Yeah, it's the Geneva
Convention.
So I guess that could be, not to jump ahead or anything, but that could be a reason that the Brits would want to murder Hess, is if they were scared that he might come out with his story of what they did to him.
Oh, so for 4 you're saying that for 4 years he was waterboarded
or something.
Something, and tortured brutally.
Right.
That might be. I don't know.
And they were trying to keep him quiet, but on the flip side, at 93, probably if he was going to say something, he would have said something. Right?
I think that they wanted to keep him under their control. So, but the question is what was it what was the big secret he was sitting on?
Yeah.
So he couldn't talk about the war or the peace mission that he went on. Everything was carefully supervised. One theory is that Winston Churchill kept the war going with Germany when it wasn't necessary, and a lot of people died, and so that would have been like a huge scandal. That's one of the things that Wolf Hess thinks. I think there might be another reason.
That's a good. Yeah, that would upset a lot of people. You would want to keep.
Although it's kind of ancient history by this point in time, by 1987.
Well, yeah. Right, because when did Churchill die?
Oh God, was it 80s?
I don't remember.
It was before 87, though, right?
I think so.
He would have been dead by then, so it wouldn't have really. Although you don't want to sully the memory of.
No, I've actually just started a search for a good Churchill book because I want to read up on him more. Because he was really weird and interesting. That guy was intriguing.
He was amazing, actually.
Yeah.
I mean,
he was a quirky little guy, but there was some serious brain power going there.
Oh yeah, he was.
Well, I guess that if there was a revelation like that, there would be some serious precedent for reparations, right, to families. It would at least make the Brits look not super great.
Well, yes and no. I mean, because here's the deal: is that it would have saved some British lives. But at the same time, is it really a great idea to allow the Nazis to consolidate power on the continent?
Right, no, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, you might have peace now, but that doesn't mean they're not going to come after you later.
But as I
So
was
that
saying,
made
it
sense.
just gives that tacit consent.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
probably
Everything that they're doing.
You take a break, you recover, and then you go after it some more. But
Yeah.
here's my thing. Here's my issue with the scene of his suicide.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Let's stop. I know I want to circle back to
Okay.
that for a second.
Yeah.
So the description of the scene is that it looked like a wrestling match had happened. The ground is churned up and the chair is knocked over and far away. Well, there's a couple of things that can explain this. It could have been that somebody ran in, seeing him hanging there, and flung the furniture out of the way to try to get to him, to keep him from hanging, from dying. It's also entirely possible. I've never seen an image of this room, and we never will because the place has been destroyed.
Yeah.
That this hook and where he was at, he may not have been truly hanging. There are examples of people.
I don't think he was truly hanging.
I don't think so. It could have been that he was, just a little bit at an incline, and so when he was in the death throes, his feet are going, they're churning up the dirt around him, he's flopping around. That's going to give that false impression of a struggle between multiple people when really it's his body in the death spasms.
Yeah. Well, and here's the other thing, too, is that if these were two British SAS guys, they would be in really fit shape.
Yeah.
And two guys against one very frail 93-year-old man,
Yeah,
there's not going to be a
shouldn't be.
huge death struggle,
No.
probably.
Yeah,
So,
well, he
you know.
probably didn't have, his Nazi jujitsu skills
No.
anymore.
And frankly, it could have been as simple as he missed a couple times with the power cord, right? You've got the heavier end on the power cord, you kind of toss it up and it falls. And then you drag it back and you toss it up and it falls.
And he's
it's
walking
a
back and
little
forth
kicked up.
and stumbling.
It's...
Yeah, I mean, there's a million ways.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's why I look at this. This doesn't sound nefarious to me at all.
Not necessarily.
Very few things sound nefarious to you, Steve.
Yeah.
That's
It's true.
what I know.
Well, just
about
let
you.
I am Captain Rational.
Oh, okay. Well, there are some other interesting little tidbits, though, here. Lieutenant Colonel Eugene Byrd, he was commandant at Spandau Prison from 1964 to 71.
Well, okay, so what's
Yeah.
that? The commandant.
Commandant,
Like,
he's like the warden.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was looking for.
Yeah, I guess maybe they saw it as more of like, I guess you have a warden in a prison, but in a POW camp, there's always a commandant.
It's
Yeah.
a military installation, so yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. But he got to know Rudolf Hess very well. They actually became friends, and they started working on a collaboration on a book about Hess and his peace flight. And
I thought he wasn't allowed to talk about that.
Well, apparently there's some exception, and maybe it was kind of surreptitious, I think. Yeah, but when Byrd's superiors got wind of this in March 1971, Byrd was placed under house arrest, and he was interrogated extensively. He wrote about it later. He was eventually forced to resign.
Yeah.
And you got to wonder, what's the big secret here? What's the big deal? I mean, I would think that would be a positive thing. If Hess wants to tell his story, what's wrong with that? And Byrd eventually did publish a book called The Loneliest Man in the World about Hess.
When did in the U.S., when did the ruling come down that prisoners couldn't make money from anything related to their acts? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, and I don't know if that was a ruling that came down. I think it was a law that was passed.
Right. The point, though, is that I just wonder if it was kind of, that had set a general precedent among the worldwide audience of, oh, wait, you're a Nazi, you shouldn't be able to commemorate yourself in this way. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, you're talking about him writing a book and making
yeah.
Well,
yeah, potentially making some cash off of it.
I don't think the plan was, though, I don't know if they were really going to make any cash out of the deal, but... And what was he going to do?
Nobody writes a book to write a book.
Well, that's true, but what was Hess going to spend the money on anyway? He was in prison.
He could have bequeathed it to his relatives. He could have, in a way, made some money to benefit people he knew.
But the thing is other Nazis...
I'm just wondering if that's the reason that they put the squash on it.
There were other high-ranking Nazis who wrote memoirs after their release from prison.
Key phrase right
there.
They
probably made money off of it.
After their release from prison.
I just think that it would have, they would have said that, right? If they had arrested Byrd, they would have come out publicly and they would have said, listen, there's this law that we have that he was breaking.
Or a
But
belief.
I don't know that
It's
there
not a
was.
law.
I don't know that there was any law.
That's
like
in the
that
U.S. only. is the
Okay,
law.
well-
but I know where you're heading.
You would say, listen, this guy was helping this war criminal write a book, and we don't say, but don't worry about it. Nope, nothing to see here, people. It's fine. And keep it under wraps.
It's almost as if you've never watched a governmental body do that kind of weirdness before, Devin. They do that all the time. Though.
I
They
live in
never
America. We do not do that.
except for all the time.
No, this is America.
Okay.
Freedom. Eagle
Exactly.
screech.
America.
All right, Joe, please let's move forward before
Oh, yeah,
she
yeah.
throws the eagle
So
at
what
me.
we're talking about Bird. Bird actually did say that he thought Hess was murdered.
No, not the eagle, just bird.
Bird. I'm sorry. We're going way off track here.
Okay. Oh yeah, we are. Back to Bird though. He did publicly say that he thought that Hess might have been murdered. But
Well,
again,
of course you did.
Yeah, I mean, again, two other men were serving life sentences in Spandau were released early. In the 1950s, believe it or not, because they were old and sick, so for humanitarian reasons. By the mid-80s, Rudolf Hess was also pretty old and sick, so why wasn't he let go? Again, it seems to me the reason was to keep him quiet about something. I can't see any other reason. I mean, all kinds of people were saying that he should be let go.
He probably
When
said a
Churchill
lot
said he
of
should be
bad
let go.
things about British cuisine.
Maybe that.
Probably
Yeah.
what it was.
Yeah.
He said tea was awful.
Yeah, yeah, you can't get away with that.
Baked beans for breakfast? What?
He mispronounced midget, and that's probably what it is. So I've already said that I don't think the scandal was Winston Churchill refusing to make peace, but there might have been another reason.
What?
Yeah. Well, it has been said there were members of the royal family who were sympathetic to Germany. And it could be that there actually were discussions between the aristocracy and the Germans that the British Secret Service hadn't been aware of until after the fact, perhaps, or maybe even at the time. And Hess was knowledgeable about these things. And depending on what was said and who said it, that might be a secret worth keeping. I can't think of any other reason to keep this guy locked up for all these years.
But then why?
And that's a reason to kill him if he was about to get let out.
Oh, I don't know.
I understand the fear of scandal and embarrassment, but I also just wonder how much credence people are gonna give to a convicted Nazi war criminal.
Who spent
not
most
convicted
of
of-
his life in jail.
And he was not a convicted war criminal.
Yeah, he was.
No, he was convicted of crimes against peace, but he was exonerated.
a convicted
he was not
peace
convicted of
criminal.
war, he was not convicted of war crimes or crimes against humanity.
Okay.
But in everybody's mind, he's a war criminal. He
I
spent
guess.
40-some years in Spandau. He's a friggin' war criminal.
He's a
in the
close personal friend
general
of
population's
Hitler.
mind.
Yeah.
So he is so easy to discredit. I mean, it
Yeah.
doesn't make sense.
I also guess I don't know why you would murder him instead of just saying, "Hey Russians, y'all just keep saying no."
Yeah, you
and
could do that.
we owe you two big favors.
It could have been.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, why would you not just
Yeah, I still honestly wonder. I'm not saying I'm sure he was murdered, but I still honestly wondered what it was that they didn't want Hess talking about. What it was that he knew that they didn't want the world to find out about.
totally?
Based
Yeah.
on what Devin said, it's that British used the term y'all.
Yeah, it could have been that. I don't know, but it seems strange because in the aftermath of World War II. There's historians out there, there's journalists, there's all kinds of people who want to know, to want to sort out the story of what happened. They want to talk to as many people as they can to find out the
Absolutely.
entire history of World War II. And this guy had some interesting stuff to tell us all.
Yeah.
But he was gagged. He couldn't say a word.
So this just kind of dawned on me, and I wonder if maybe this is the reason, if indeed he was killed.
Mm-hmm.
What happened to Spandau after he died?
They tore it down.
They tore it down.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, some people think that they tore it down just to conceal the evidence of the crime, which I don't believe. But no, they tore it down because they didn't want it to become a neo-Nazi shrine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that is one of the things that I'm like, wait a minute. Because that movement had been gaining traction for a while at that point. I mean, it was on the rise again, and it could have been that he would have been hailed as some kind of martyr or messiah or saint or whatever.
Yeah, no. So
that could have been a serious fear.
Well, why do you need to keep him gagged?
If he comes out and anything he says, these people are going to get a hold of and latch on to and take as a motivation, I could see that as a giant fear for the Germans alone, because the German government in the 80s was really combating this neo-Nazi movement that was happening. I could see where they would be concerned about it. I mean, it popped in my head. Right or wrong, I could suddenly maybe.
But they didn't. Again, they didn't try to stop any other former high-ranking Nazis, like again Albert Speer, etc., from publishing their memoirs.
I almost wonder if that would be a good argument for suicide, though. If Hess was really not, he didn't have that really warlike nature in him. He didn't have that hate so
His
much.
His conviction was to the party,
him.
not to the things the party did.
Well, or to the, kind of, we're going to make this world great part of the party, not the, and also kill a bunch of people part of the party.
And enslave the others.
That maybe he did, maybe somebody did say, oh, yeah, there's this, neo-Nazi resurrection, and it's going to be great when you get out, this is going to happen. Maybe he thought, oh my God, this is what maybe he had a realization. Maybe you have that self-realization.
His legacy was not what he wanted it to be.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
It didn't have to be that way, though. I mean, he could
didn't have to
if they
be,
came to him and said, hey, address our next rally, dude, he could have just said, screw you, I don't support you people at all. Look how things turned out.
But I don't know that
he
necessarily...
wasn't bound, and I'm sure under the terms of his release, he would have been required to not do any neo-Nazi activities.
Sure, no, but I think that I think there's that chance of having that reflective moment of somebody saying it's so great you're going to get out, and all these people are here to support you, and this is what they believe, and for you to have that moment of realization of, oh my God, this is my legacy.
Well, yeah, but it didn't have to be that way.
It didn't have to be, but you're also 93 years old, and
they were probably not going to announce to the world so that he could have a big reception committee outside the prison waiting for him.
Yeah.
But they probably would have been quiet about it. But
this is very cynical. I have a question. How soon after he died did they get rid of the...
Did they bury him?
No, the prison.
Oh, the prison? I'm not sure exactly when it was torn down. It was pretty soon.
Yeah, it wasn't as if 10 years later they finally got around to tearing the thing down.
It's kind of too bad. It was a cool old building. I mean, it was kind of castle-like. It was, and so it's kind of a shame. But
this is going to sound really horrible. And I almost wonder if they just needed to tear it down.
It might have been they wanted the real estate too.
Oh, well, no, I think that I don't disagree with that. We just needed to tear this thing down.
And there's this guy who has lived for way longer than we ever thought he would live. Yeah. So we just got to get rid of him.
They really spent a ton of money keeping one guy locked up for all those years.
I mean, so I wonder. I know that sounds really horrible.
Terrible.
I know it sounds horrible and cynical, and I'm really, really sorry, but I almost wonder if they just thought, this guy's got to go. We need to, the bulldozers are here.
Maybe it was real estate developers.
Yeah, I mean, it
could have been.
Real estate developers are the ones that killed him.
If this was Portland, I would absolutely say yes.
Yeah, they dressed
100%.
They dressed in military uniforms.
Yeah.
They were Remax agents.
Yeah.
But I mean,
that's possible.
I guess who would have thought when you locked a dude up that he would live for that much longer?
Yeah. He was a relatively young man, and some people just live a long time.
He was young. I mean, he was only a couple of years older than I am now.
Yeah.
So that is a very young age to get locked up.
And all of the rest of his people had been released in the 60s. Right, 20 years ago. And so they probably just assumed, all right, this guy's going to be dead in a couple of years. It'll be fine. And then 20 years on, they're thinking, oh, man.
I know.
We can't afford this.
Maybe that was it. We're just sick of this, and we want to get rid of the guy.
I don't know.
It's crazy. But and speaking of shrines, his body was buried in the family cemetery, and I can't remember the name of the town in Germany. It's somewhere in Bavaria, I think. And it unfortunately became kind of a shrine for neo-Nazis who would have annual gatherings there at his grave, and so... Alas, the government dug up the grave and burned the body and scattered the ashes.
I guess that's just upsetting because it doesn't feel like what he wanted. You know?
To be burned, you mean?
No.
To be cremated? Oh,
No.
to have those neo-Nazis come
Yeah.
in? Yeah, he probably... think about the neo-Nazis. It's frankly, I don't really know much about these guys. I suspect that it's not even so much about politics or the socialism or anything. I think it's just about anti-Semitism.
It's about racism, yes.
It's about that.
Which is
Nothing
not
else.
what the Nazi Party was started for. And I agree.
Well, they were racist, but that wasn't the whole thing with them.
But they were racist later.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there was. It's based on a very common sentiment of if they weren't here, I'd do better.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what that people is, there's always one group saying if you weren't here, it'd be better for us. I mean, that's
you see
kind
that
of the
everywhere in the world.
But that was the very. I'm going to say naive beginning of the racism in the Nazi Party, and then it escalated to a horrible level, and we can all agree on that.
Oh, yeah.
But and so I agree that he probably was. It is terrible because it wasn't like he was like, yeah, I want a bunch of drunk skinheads on my grave. No,
I'm sure he wouldn't have cared for that.
Really,
Yeah. I don't think he would have cared for that at all.
he got the short end of the stick for 40 years.
And the thing that to remember about the Nazis is it wasn't just because they were racist, but it's also because at the time they came into being, there was this real huge intellectual fad, at least in the world, called the eugenics movement, and which began here in America, by the way.
Yeah.
And
great job.
Yeah, and then of course, leave it to Hitler and the gang to take this to an industrial scale, but. They actually thought that they were saving the human race because there were all these inferior people out there, and if you take their genes out of the gene pool, it's going to make us all better off down the line. And so that's where that came from. Obviously, eugenics is like, it's still out there. You still see the Darwin Awards, and there's movies like Idiocracy, which, embodies the same ideas. And so there's still lots of people who really believe that. Hopefully we're not going to see a return to the Holocaust.
Please no.
Hopefully not.
God, no.
Yeah. All right. Well, enough of that. Do you guys have any other theories or anything like that?
I'm totally done.
I think that Hess was sent by Hitler, and I also think that he didn't kill himself.
I think the Chupacabra did it.
Of course you do.
Could have been Chupi. Yeah.
He is about that right age.
Yeah, I think he was sent by Hitler. I think they were both duped by MI6, probably.
Yeah.
And I think it's highly possible. I obviously don't know, but given the fact that for so many years it seems so important to keep him muzzled, you gotta wonder. And then all of a sudden he might be let go. Whoops. Well, I guess it's time for him to commit suicide.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta wonder.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I have definitive evidence or anything, but I'm just wondering.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, anyway, I guess we'll just call that one solved and sign off for the week.
Totally.
Solved by something.
Totally.
Yeah,
Those historians, they don't know what
Yeah.
they're talking about. We got it.
Damn it. We've got a 100% record. That's awesome. Well, hey, time for a few things that you guys probably want to know about. You probably want to know, do we have a website? Yeah, we do. It's called ThinkingSidewaysPodcast.com. You can download episodes, listen to episodes, check our links. We always put links up for you. And you could also, until recently, you could also leave comments. We actually turned off the comments because, some people were getting a little unruly.
Turns out the internet is full of anonymous jerks.
Yeah, and I apologize because we had some other people who were posting really great, insightful, thoughtful.
There was good conversations.
There were.
Sorry, guys, we couldn't police it anymore.
Yeah, it's just...
So we do have some other options, though.
Yes.
Yeah. You can always go to Facebook. We are on Facebook, and you can like us. You better like us, damn it. And join the group, of course. We have and there's also iTunes. You could subscribe and leave us a review, hopefully a good review. And you can also stream us from all kinds of places. Although, I don't know, it seems to me like we get more complaints from people going through streaming services than from anybody else.
Unfortunately, that's the streaming service, not us anymore.
Yeah.
Anymore. Used to be, but it's not us anymore.
Yeah, so if you are having issues, find another streaming service, or maybe just, I don't know, go somewhere like our website. I don't know. Where else? We're on Twitter.
We are?
Twitter. The Twitter. Excuse me. Yeah. And
We do twits all the time.
Yeah, we do. Thinking Sideways. That's without the G. You can also
we got the
send
Reddit
us.
page. That's another place for people who used to be at the website can go to. Is we have the Reddit.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
We have
and
a subreddit.
There's a new discussion every time that we post
Each
an
episode.
Yeah, which they're small right now, but go say your thoughts, and those will be really, really great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we want to hear what you guys think, good or bad, preferably good. And also, if you want to contact us privately, you can always send us an email. We're thinkingsidewayspodcast@gmail.com. So send us an email if you've got any ideas for a mystery or something fun like that.
Or if you want to be an expert or you just want to chat.
Chat about the mystery in general, yeah.
Yeah. Or if you happen to know something about one of the mysteries.
We reply to every single email we get.
We do. Sometimes they're not as speedy as we want.
But literally every single email we get, we reply to.
Yep.
Yeah, or our bot replies.
No, it's just us.
Okay.
We have a Joe bot.
Yeah, we don't have a bot yet, but we will.
We will.
And
his name's going to be Justin.
We finally found a use for that intern.
Yeah. Oh, where else? What else? Also, if you want to support the show, this is totally optional, of course, but there is Patreon. You go to patreon.com/thinkingsideways, and if you want to, you can pledge a certain amount of money per episode. Be aware of that, because you get charged that amount for every episode. So if you're giving us $50, make
Don't
sure.
do that.
Oh, no, you can if you want, but just realize that it's going to be every week you're going to get $50.
Which is the reason that we have the PayPal option as well for one-time donation, or we've got the merchandise.
Which does support the show, and you get to also sport some sweet shirts, or have a mug, or a nightlight, or some stickers.
Somebody bought the Mary Celeste shirt.
We have a Mary Celeste shirt?
Yep.
Yes. You saw this.
Okay, yeah, duh. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so that's about it for me. You guys have any last thoughts before we sign off for the week?
I got Nazi else.
Oh my God, no. Thinking Sideways is not supported by overweight animals trying to climb onto furniture. Instead, it's supported by the generous donations of our listeners on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/thinkingsideways to learn more. And thanks.
Thinking Sideways.
I don't understand.
Does not compute.
You never know.
Insufficient data to formulate a slide. What?
Stories of things we simply don't know the answer to.
Hi there, and welcome to another episode of Thinking Sideways. I'm Joe, joined as always by
Devin
and
Steve.
And we're here this week to talk about another unsolved mystery.
Indeed.
Yeah, this is obviously one that's not been unsolved. It's almost 20 years old. It's about the disappearance of Sabrina Eisenberg. Before I go any further, I'd like to give a big shout out to Clarissa, who suggested this mystery. Thanks, Clarissa.
Indeed.
Yeah, and also probably a little warning. This involves the kidnapping and possible God knows what of a 5-month-old girl. So if you're sensitive to that kind of thing, then
it can be a trigger for folks.
You might want to skip it, but But we, on the other hand, are not sensitive at all, so we're going to go ahead and talk about it.
You are such a liar.
So Sabrina Eisenberg was a 5-month, actually not quite 5 months old, baby when she was one night taken from her crib by a person or persons unknown, and she hasn't been seen since. Her parents believe she's still alive somewhere, and that she was stolen for sale to a childless couple, or maybe stolen by some baby crazy person. Which does happen. People do steal children, because they want a kid. But a lot of other people think she's dead. So let's get into our mystery, which begins in Valrico, Florida, which is a suburb of Tampa. It's to the east of Tampa. Steve and Marlene Eisenberg had 3 kids: William, who was 8, Monica, 4, and Sabrina, who was just short of 5 months old, as I said. And they also had a dog named Brownie.
Who was very lazy about his job, being a dog.
Yeah.
What kind of dog was he?
He was a mutt.
Yeah, that's what I heard, and I assume the dog is brown.
Brown and tan.
Yeah. So that was Brownie. So Marlene was woken up on the morning of November 24th, 1997, by a noise coming out of the living room. She said her fish tank filter was apparently making a lot of noise, so she got up and walked out to check it, and she was fiddling with it, and she suddenly noticed that she could see into their laundry room through the open door, and through there she could see the door that led to the garage, and that door was open.
And the garage was open.
And the garage door was open too. So she suddenly sussed out that it looked like maybe they had left their garage door open, but then the door between the garage and the house had been left up unlocked, and somebody had
all the doors were open.
Yeah, and then somebody had entered the house.
Have you guys have seen the footage of the house?
Yeah.
It is a straight line from their hallway through those doors and out the garage door.
Mm-hmm. They can see right out. So she suddenly realized, hey, it looks like somebody may have walked into the house sometime in the dark of night. That kind of freaked her out.
Yeah,
a
understandably.
little bit. She ran to Sabrina's bedroom and checked her crib, and sure enough, it was empty.
And now, to clarify, Sabrina's bedroom was at the first bedroom.
It was one of
in
the
that
first
hallway?
rooms that you would have come to from the garage and the laundry room.
Yeah.
So, but it was
It was
the
in
first,
line.
It was the first bedroom that you would come to.
I'm under the impression it was the first bedroom. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
I've never actually seen a map of who slept in which room, but I have to presume agree with Joe.
Okay.
Yeah. So she wouldn't have had to. Whoever came in and stole Sabrina wouldn't have had to go by everybody's bedroom. Although,
Right.
if you're stealthy enough and people are sound asleep, it's not that hard.
I'm just trying
probably.
to lay the foundation. for-
Mentally map it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Marlene says she screamed, which woke Steve up. Steve comes out of the bedroom. He also sees the baby is gone. Marlene gets on the horn, calls 911 at 6:42 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess she was a little incoherent. But I've not,
Surprisingly,
I've not been able to find much of the actual call on the internet. A few snippets here and there that I found on TV news programs.
Yeah.
They included small snippets, and that's all I found. Eventually, she hands